Good morning, class. Welcome to this session of Strategic Financial Management. In our today's session, we shall discuss regarding Chapter 8, which speaks about project planning and analysis. Now, this chapter speaks about why is it necessary that every project that a business firm takes up is necessary to be analyzed, especially and also in terms of money or economy. Now, before discussing regarding those aspects, first we shall have to understand what do we mean by project and other respective terms connected with project. Now, speaking about project. Now, a project, in simple words, is set of planned interrelated tasks that is necessary to be executed within a certain fixed period and also within given cost and along with some other limitation. Other limitation can be in terms of limited human resources, limited materials that are being available and other such constraints. So in simple words, it is nothing but interrelated planned task that will have to be finished especially within a given time and with given amount that is at the hands of the organization for its disposal. Now, a project can be considered as a temporary task or endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or service or result. This thing particularly speaks about that mainly or most of the times the task that is being taken under a project would be such a product or such a service which cannot be planned beforehand and which cannot be produced beforehand and stored for the purpose of selling it. The project would be definitely such that which can be come up with only when a client asks us to do something. Now, speaking about this, the present day business or contemporary business and services also for that matter always treat a project as an undertaking. Now, it is carried out individually or can also be carried out collaboratively and it possibly involves researching also and designing. That is to tell, it is carefully planned usually by a project team to achieve a particular aim. Now, a project may be a temporary social system, possibly constituted by teams to accomplish particular tasks under some time constraints. Moving forward, what do we mean by project planning is the next obvious question that arises. Now, speaking about project planning, it is a discipline which states how to complete a project within a certain time frame. Usually, it will be defined in stages and with designated resources. Now, project planning becomes very necessary because all the resources or the materials that we are going to use to come up with a project would have certain kinds of limitations, starting from limitation of time, resources, money, and every other aspect related to it. So when there is limitation, it calls definitely for planning. That's where when we speak about project planning becomes a part which cannot be differentiated or kept aside. Now, one view of project planning divides usually the activities into certain things. The first one can be setting the objectives. Now, setting the objective is nothing but stating in definite, clear words what the project sees at the end, or when it is finished, what is that the project is trying to achieve. And it is always advised that these should be measurable, might be in terms of quantity, might be in terms of money, or can be in terms of both. Next one is identifying deliverables. Now, identifying deliverables speaks about what is the project trying to deliver to the client. The next one is planning the schedule. Now, this is to tell what would be done at what time and who would be doing it and how will it be completed. And once the broad plans are being done, definitely it calls for making supporting plans. That is to tell, the entire activity can never be in one big plan. It is set of many plans. Now these plans would also need some other supporting plans. All this together, when completed at scheduled time and within specified cost, will make the project complete. Now, it also becomes necessary to understand what is project management. Now, speaking about project management, now the body of knowledge which is concerned with the principles, techniques, and tools which are being used in planning, controlling, monitoring, and reviewing of the project is called as project management. So herein we can see that the entire work that we had discussed under principles of management or under a business scenario is being applied for project also, because it is not only that we plan. Once we plan, we'll have to do the work, we'll have to control it, and controlling we do to see that it is going on according to what has been decided, and we'll also monitor it, and we will review it, telling whether it is going on according to what we had thought or whether there are any changes that is being done or whether it has to be changed. Now, this project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. Now, it has always been practiced informally, but this project management began to emerge as a distinct profession in the mid of 20th century. So, we shall try to understand the concept of project and project management. Now, speaking about this, the term project has a wider meaning. Okay, then whatever we discuss, a project simply does not mean only that particular item. Now, a project is accomplished by performing a set of activities. Now, to put it in simple words or in the form of example, now construction of a house is and can be considered as a project. Now, the construction of a house consists of many activities like digging of foundation pitch, construction of foundation, construction of the walls, construction of the roof, fixing of doors and windows, fixing of sanitary fitting, wiring, etc. Now that those who build the walls need not necessarily can carpent the windows, and it is also not necessary that those who can carpent the windows can do the wiring work or can do the painting work. Now, for each of the work, usually we have experienced that there are different kinds of people who have to be allotted with this work. So, this is what it means. Now, constructing of a house can be considered as a plan, and that would be taken up by one particular person, and he allows the different works to different people. Now, if there is one person who's been given the responsibility of wiring, one person with the construction of the wall, one with the roof, one with the painting, one with doing the wooden works, now each of this makes the supportive plan. Now, another aspects of project is that we should always remember that it is the kind of non-routine nature, non-routine in nature. That is to tell, each product is unique in the sense that the activities of a project are unique and different from one another. Or it also can be said that what the activities which are being considered in project A need not be necessarily present in project B, or sometimes there are also chances that it might be a same kind of project. That is, once after I construct a building house for somebody else, next I would be doing the same work of constructing house for one more client, but the activities that would be taken would broadly be similar, but the detailed work would definitely be different from one another. Now, it goes without telling that a project necessarily consumes resources. Now, the resources required for completing a project are and can be termed in terms of men, material, money, and time. So we can define a project as an organized program of predetermined group of activities now that are non-routine in nature and that must be completed using the available resources within the given time limit. Now, speaking about this project, it is also necessary we discuss the definition of project. Now, there are n number of definitions given by many of the theorists, economists, and also people who study in this particular area. Out of that, I have fetched few. I hope it might be useful for you all. Now, the first definition is given by Newman et al. And they define, I quote, a project typically has a distinct mission that it is designed to achieve and a clear termination point, the achievement of the mission, unquote. That is to tell, according to Newman and others, now a project is distinct in nature from one another, and it is designed mainly to achieve the objectives. Along with that, there would be a clear point at which the project is going to come to an end. Now, checking one more definition from Glinger, he defines project, I quote, as the whole complex of activities involved in using a resource to gain benefits. Now, if we see the definition of Glinger, it has been explained in very broad terms. Now, one more definition has been taken from Project Management Institute of USA, and it defines a project as, I quote, a system involving the coordination of a number of separate department entities throughout organization in a way it must be completed with prescribed schedules and time constraints. One of the last definition has been taken from Encyclopedia of Management, and it defines project as, I quote, project is an organized unit dedicated to the attainment of goal, the successful completion of a development project on time, within budget, in conformance with predetermined program specification, unquote. So now every other definition that we discussed tells us that a project would be a venture which necessarily need not to be for a very long time, but it would have come up with the intention of completing one particular task, and once after the completion, it would be shut down. Now, the cost that is being involved, the time that is being involved would definitely be predetermined. And not only that, it is non-routine in nature, and also it would be for certain fixed time period. So we shall now try to understand the characteristics of a project. Now, speaking about the characteristic, the first one is objective. Now, every project has a set of objectives, or what we call as mission. Now, once the objectives are achieved, definitely the project is treated as completed. The next one that can be defined as a characteristic is life cycle. That is to tell, every project has its own life cycle. Now, the life cycle usually consists of five stages, that is called as conception stage, definition stage, planning and organizing stage, implementation stage, and commissioning stage. Now, each of this stage will be discussed later in the chapter. Now, the next characteristic is uniqueness. That is to tell, every project is unique and no two projects can be similar. Now, setting up a cement plant and a construction of highway are two different projects having its own kind of features. The next one is teamwork. Now, project is a teamwork and it normally consists of diverse areas. Now, there will be personnel specialized in their respective areas and coordination among the diverse areas usually and definitely without any doubt calls for teamwork for its successful completion. The next one is complexity. Now, speaking about this, it goes without telling there are set of activities, and also it is noteworthy that each set of activities is complex in nature, because every time we have come up with a project we might not have a experience of the previous similar type of work. So every time it is new and every time it calls for complexity. The next one is risk and uncertainty. Now, risk and uncertainty both go hand in hand with project. Now, a risk-free project only means that the element is not apparently visible on the surface and it will always be hidden underneath. The next characteristic is customer specific nature. Now, a project is always customer specific or the client specific. That is to tell, yes, we are going to do a project. Yes, at the end of the project, we are going to get commission in the form of profit or any other kind of benefits, but it will always be client oriented or customer oriented. What our client asks, we'll have to come up with that. It is not that I produce in beforehand and my customer would be using what I have produced. Now, a project is always without doubt customer specific. It is the customer who decides upon the product to be produced or the service to be offered, and hence it is the responsibility of every organization to go for projects or services that are definitely suited with customer needs. The next one is change. Now, speaking about this, changes occur throughout the lifespan of project as a natural outcome of many of the environmental factors. The changes may vary from minor change, which may have very little impact on the project, to major change, which may have a big impact or even may change the very nature of the project itself. The next one is optimality. That is to tell, it the base idea of a project would be optimum utilization of resources. Now, a project is always aimed towards that. For the overall development of the economy. Basically, it would be aimed towards the development of the organization itself, but indirectly, it would also help for optimum utilization of the resources and thereby develop the economy as whole. Now, the next characteristic is subcontracting. Now, a high level of work in a project is usually done through contracts. Now, the more the complexity of the project, the more will be the extent of contracting. The next one is unity in diversity. Now, a project is a complex set of thousands of varieties. Now, the varieties are in terms of technology, equipment and materials, machinery, people, work, culture, and all other aspects that are being used. So, we shall now discuss regarding sources of project identification. That is, it speaks the different sources from which we can identify different projects. First one is the performance of the existing project. The next one can be in form of availability of raw materials, and sometimes the availability of labor or especially the skilled labor also the project identification is possible. The next data is import or export statistics, price trends, data from various different sources, research laboratories, the consumption that is being made abroad, and identifying unfulfilled psychological needs. Now, plan outlets and government guidelines, analysis of economic and social trends, and also possibility of reviving sick units. Now, having said this, we shall also see the essential project planning concept that has to work, or what are the steps that we'll have to take up so that a project becomes successful. The first one is a plan is not only about schedule, it is about many other things and each and everything that helps the project to be completed in a very successful way. The next one we should remember is key concept of project planning policy. And sometimes it is also necessary that planning everything might become plan nothing. And we should also remember that planning is iterative sometimes. And the next one is making promises. That is to tell, giving a time limit or giving a cost limit. Unless until you are sure about that, we or it is asked that do not make promises without knowing what it is. Because usually in business, it is majority of the times the word of the mouth which works. The next one is do not plan alone. That is because not one single person knows everything. When we plan along with some other expertise, definitely it can be made better. But we should also remember that too many cooks can sometimes also spoil the broth. So, moving forward, we shall now see the stages in project preparation. Usually speaking about this, there are four stages in project preparation, that is pre-feasibility study, functional studies, third is feasibility study, and detailed project analysis. Now, speaking about this pre-feasibility study, functional studies, and feasibility study, we shall study under this section in detail. And detailed project analysis, it includes the study of environment, the economic environment, might be the marketing, the planning, the designing, all other. Now, in this particular section, we shall see the first three stage, and the detailed project analysis we shall deal later in the coming sections. Now, the first one is pre-feasibility study. Now, why should we have this particular step when we come up with the idea of a project? Or why is it necessary? Or what are the things that we do in this particular step? Now, the first thing is, hereunder we determine whether the project offers a promising investment opportunity. That is to tell, we should try to understand, is it worth our time and money? And a business definitely goes only for those projects which gives them investment opportunities, and also in return the profit that they expect. Now, it is also done to determine whether there are any aspects of the project that are critical, requiring in-depth investigation. That is to tell, is there any kind of further researching that has to be done? Maybe in terms of market surveys, maybe in terms of laboratory tests, and also can be sometimes pilot plant tests. Now, this particular stage, the market potential for selected product and services, the competitors in the field, and the market share, the market forecast, the trading practices in the industry in terms of pricing, credit, distribution, government controls, everything would be analyzed. Now, the technologies available and the technology suitable for the project, the manufacturing facilities required in terms of plant and machinery will also be discussed. Now, the availability of cost and sources of raw materials will also be taken into consideration. Now, the plant location, the plant capacity, manpower requirement in terms of labor, in terms of staff and management personnel, and their availability and cost will also be analyzed. Now, the investment that is to be made, the return on the investment that is expected, the means of financing the project, the cost of production, and commercial profitability will also be analyzed and come or decided based upon the objectives of the project. Now, the next one is functional studies. Speaking of this functional studies, it includes market study or studying of the market, and we should always remember that it is not a FMCG market or the routine market we are speaking. Here the market study would be very very different than that of consumable goods or consumer goods. The next one here we do is raw material study. We should also see regarding the project location study, plan size study, and also equipment selection study. Moving forward, the next one is feasibility study. Now, under feasibility study, in simple words, we see that whether the project is feasible or not, or whether the plan on the paper can be commercialized or not. When we speak about feasibility study, usually it would be done on the basis of technical feasibility, economic viability, commercial feasibility, and financial feasibility. Now, speaking about technical feasibility, it is all about the technology that the organization has. That is to tell, is the technology proposed to be adopted the latest technology, whether it is a proven technology. Now, what is the likelihood of proposed technology becoming absolute? How much time does it take so that this projects become obsolete in near future? Now, is the technology proposed to be adopted available indigenously? Now, in the case of imported technology, whether this technology can be imported freely or whether there are any kind of restriction. The next thing that we see under feasibility study is economic viability. Now, the return on the investment is mainly seen here under. Now, the better use of raw materials, and also it reduce or eliminate the use of some scarce resources and also valuable resources. The next one that we study under feasibility study is commercial feasibility. Now, assessment of possibility for successful marketing of product or services. The market survey to estimate the likely sales level, competitors in the market, their strengths and weaknesses. Not only that, competitive edge of the company or what we call as competitiveness of the company also becomes necessary. Now, the last thing uh, here under is financial viability or feasibility. Now, financial feasibility speaks all about financing the project or how would be the fund raised for this particular project, and also it speaks about cost of debt and equity, and also whether financial benefits expected are in excess of the financial cost involved or whether it is feasible. Now, there is a topic called as project selection process. Now, identification of a new project is a very complex problem. The project selection process starts with the generation of project ideas. Now, in order to select the most promising project, the entrepreneur needs to generate a few ideas about the possible project one can undertake. The project ideas as a process of identification of a project begins with an analytical survey of the economy, or what we just call as a pre-feasibility study or a pre-investment survey. Now, the surveys and studies usually gives us an idea how the project would go on. Now, usually the process of project selection would be, the first one is idea generation. That is, we'll have to come up with as many ideas as possible. Now, this particular step tells that it is better that we come up with most number of ideas that is possible. Now, it would be might be scribbled, and there are different ways of idea generation. Now, regarding this particular topic, you would be dealt in your HR and also in your entrepreneurship and small development business subject. Now, idea generation usually uh, they come up with many ideas. In the beginning, they are not going to see whether it is feasible or not. This particular stage simply tells the more the number of ideas, the better it is. Now, once after they come up with all the ideas that is possible, they will try to eliminate all those ideas which are not feasible. Now, with the limited number of ideas, each of the ideas they would analyze and they would decide which is the best appropriate idea among all the ideas that is available. Now, once after they decide regarding the best idea, the next thing that they are going to do is environmental appraisal. Now, under environmental appraisal, it is nothing but we are going to assess all the factors that makes up the business organization, from the internal environment, that is which is the organization its own, and till all the micro elements of the environment in which a business is situated. The next thing that is done here is corporate appraisal. This is also done to analyze how well the organization is situated in its field. The next one is scouting for project ideas. Here we would be doing kind of backup for what ideas we have picked. The next one is preliminary screening, or the first level of assessment. The next one is the project rate index. Each of the project that has been selected would be rated, and also we would analyze sources of positive net present value. That is to tell those projects which can bring in more fund for the organization. So for today's session, we have discussed regarding what is a project, what is project planning, what is project management, concept of project and also project management, the characteristics of a project, Now, the different sources from which this project can be identified, the essentials of a project, and also the stages in the project planning and the project selecting process. In our coming sessions, we shall discuss regarding project appraisal and project life cycle and other related topics. For this session, we shall wind up here. Thank you.